So are you ready to buy a house, or are you just tired of paying rent? Well, I am going to share with you some concise, no fluff criteria to see if you really are ready to buy a house. That's what I'm talking about today. Stick around. Hi, welcome back. My name's Joe Brown. I'm a real estate agent with Century 21, List with Beggins, located in South Tampa. Thank you so much for being here with me today. So a few weeks ago, I did a video on if you're selling your house now, how to prepare to sell your house. And I thought, you know what? It's beginning to be buyer season. So are you ready to buy a house? So I thought it was a good time just to go over a checklist to see if you're really ready to buy a house. So number one is you have to have stable income. And I don't mean you own horses, right? What I mean is you've had a job for at least 2 years. You have 2 years of W-2s and tax returns. Okay, you're going to need that to get approved for a loan. You need to check your credit score. Now, ideally, it'll be above 700, even though you can get a mortgage if you're in the mid 600s. They even say down to 620. However, just know the lower your credit score, the higher your rate's going to be. So ideally, for a good rate, your credit score is in the 700s or higher, right? Then we want to look at your debt to income ratio. And this isn't the gross amount you bring home, the gross amount you get paid. And for a lot of people, it is gross, but it's your take-home pay. After taxes are paid, how much do you take home? And I talked to a mortgage lender recently, and he said, simple way to think about it is whatever you take home. So let's say combined income for the people in the house. Let's say husband and wife, they make $120,000 together as a couple. And so they take home about $100,000 a year. So they take home, let's round it off, $9,000 a month. That's what they take home. Cut that in half, $4,500. But then from there, you have to take off all the recurring debt. If you have car payment, if you have medical bills, if you have school loans, take off the recurring payments. Now, not utility bills because that's a service, but recurring payments. If you have loans other than car loans, take all that off. You want to be below 43% of your. So if you bring home $9,000, you want to be below 3,600 after everything's paid. Okay, so that's the back end 43% debt to income ratio. Another factor to consider is, and I tell my buyers this, you want to have 3 buckets of money. One bucket is for the down payment. So this isn't just escrow when you put a contract in, but how much money are you putting down towards the house? You want a bucket for down payment. You want a bucket for closing costs because closing costs is going to be anywhere from 3 to 6% of the purchase price of the house. So you want a separate bucket for that. But then the third bucket is your emergency fund. You do not want to be house rich and cash poor, because let's say you move into the house and there's a medical emergency or the car needs new tires, right? You want to have emergency funds set aside. So really think about it. You want 3 sets of money: down payment money, closing cost money, and emergency funds. Now, let's just talk about you see a house, you put an offer in, you buy the house. But when people look at a house, they look at, oh, what are the owners paying in taxes? And I've said this before, taxes are set by the new value of the house. And the new value of the house is what a buyer pays for the house. So you can't look at the taxes I pay for my house because I bought my house 30 years ago. So if somebody buys the house now, the tax on this house would reset. So same thing with the house you're looking at, the taxes will reset. And most property appraiser websites have what's called a tax estimator. So you can go to the website, tax estimator, put in property address, and put in the purchase price of the house, and it will give you the estimated property tax for that house. So earlier I talked about credit scores, and you want credit scores above 700. So remember that the big credit score companies, so Experian, Transamerica, I think Equifax is the third. So they are to provide consumers a free credit report every year. There's also a service I use, Credit Karma, which tracks your credit. So, but you can improve your credit scores in a couple ways. Number one, get the report, go through the transactions, and if there are any transactions that are questionable, you can appeal those and correct those. Get those off your record. Number two, and this is, well, 2 and 3 kind of go together. Number two is stop using credit cards, right? We all use credit cards, but pay the outstanding balance. If you have an outstanding balance, pay that down. Number 3 is you raise the credit limit. Now, you may say, Joe, are you dumb? You're telling me to spend less but raise credit limit. Yes, because the way credit scores work and the way some lenders look at this is, oh, they're allowed to spend $10,000 and they're only spending $1,000. So in their mind, that's good. So that's why if you spend less but increase the limit, it makes your score look better. Now, I will tell you, interestingly, I received a letter from one of my credit card companies that said, Joe, we are going to reduce your credit limit because you were spending nowhere near the limit. And listen, at my age, doesn't bother me, right? Because I'm not going to spend that much anyway. So, but that is one of the tricks. You can increase credit limit, but spend less. Try and pay off the credit cards as fast as you can. And a third point with credit cards is whenever you apply for a new credit card or apply for a car loan or any type of loan, they pull credit reports. And if you pull too many reports, that signals, hey, something's going on. So you want to avoid new inquiries, especially going through the mortgage process. And it is possible because there's so much fraud going on. You can put a lock on your credit. And I've done that on my own accounts, where even if I go to a store and say, I want to buy this on credit, it's not going to go through because I put a lock on my credit. There are no new inquiries. So I have to notify the credit company, yes, this is approved. I'm approving this inquiry. So you can protect yourself that way, right? Put a lock on your credit. Think about the 3 buckets of money that I talked about, right? Down payment. Now, most mortgages, right? A conventional mortgage, you hear you need 20% down. Well, 20%, you do not have to pay the private mortgage insurance, PMI. But you can, listen, there are loans 2% down, 1% down. Now, realize if you go that low, you're paying a higher interest rate. But typically you can get 3.5% down. Well, what does 3.5% down mean? If you're if you're taking a loan of $400,000 or buying a house at $400,000, 3% down is $12,000. So you have to have at least $12,000 to put down towards the house. That's not closing costs. Remember, that's a separate bucket. This is just down payment. Now, for closing costs, you're looking at different, you have to pay prorated taxes, prorated insurance, prorated HOA fees if you're in a HOA community. But another aspect is you could buy the rate down, the mortgage rate. So right now, mortgage rates are right about 6%. They're the lowest they've been in 3 years. Right about 6%. Well, depending on the lender, let's say for $3,000, you could buy the rate down almost a half point. Now, what's the break-even point? I put $3,000 out now. How long does it take to break even? You can do those calculations, but usually it's about 5 to 6 years, right? And then you're on the plus side saving money because you bought the rate down. But here's a trick. Because there's inventory on the market, there are more buyers out there, or there's more sellers out there. Sellers are more willing to give concessions. So a seller can give money towards closing costs and to buy the rate down. So ideally, you can do a contract asking the seller for, let's say, $5,000 to pay the rate down, so it doesn't have to come out of your bucket. Or you could just ask for seller concession towards closing costs, and part of those closing costs is paying the rate down. And that just helps with the affordability each month. Okay. Now, going back 5 years, maybe 6 years, this has really become standard practice, and it is getting pre-approved prior to putting an offer in on a house. It used to be, go look at a house, put an offer in, submit your loan application, and get pre-approved then, or get approval at that point. But because we had such a buyer's frenzy right around COVID, right after COVID, that, listen, just get pre-approved right now. Talk to a mortgage lender, have them pull all your information and get pre-approved for the loan. And that's going to help you. And again, they're going to look at, think about it as 222. I've shared this before too, right? 2 weeks of paychecks, 2 months of bank statements, 2 years of tax returns. Okay, 222. The 2 pay stubs, 2 months of bank statements, 2 years tax returns. That's what a mortgage lender is going to look at for pre-approval. Then just a final thought, right? So it's one thing to be financially stable to buy a house. Okay, we may have finances. One area that is, I think, often overlooked, are we emotionally ready to buy a house? I don't mean that we have stuff going on, right? But am I thinking about moving soon? Are there issues within the family that this really may not be a good time, right? So Yes, it's one thing to be financially stable, but are there other factors that need to be sorted out before you really feel comfortable buying a house? Because you don't want to buy a house to buy a house, right? Yes, buying a house, it's great. It's great for the community, great for the city. It builds equity. Absolutely, all of that is true. But you don't want to put yourself into a box that you're going to regret. So I hope this information was useful for you. Go to my website, both of them, joebrownc21.com. You can search for homes. Now, one thing at my website, there's a financial calculator. So you can go in there, use the financial calculator, put in a loan amount with a mortgage interest, and find out what the monthly payments are going to be. And you can play around with how much house you can afford. Then you can go to the search bar and search for homes in that price range. The other website is joebrown.live, and I have a whole series of blogs out there, both for commercial and residential. In fact, I have a blog about this topic specifically out there. So go check the blogs out. Share that website with people you know are interested in real estate, thinking about buying or selling a home. So thank you so much for being here with me today. And until next week, next week should be market update. So we'll see what the market's done in February. So until next week, take care.